and welcome to DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, and I am joined by Riley Fessler and Minna Stein, who are recovering from their weekends. Are you recovering from all that hard partying?
I'm mostly recovered.
I'm 99.9% recovered.
Me and my wife, who went with some of her friends to San Juan, Puerto Rico over the weekend to see the Bad Bunny concert. And so she's like texting me video of the Bad Bunny concert for like 4.5 hours last night. So I feel like I lived through that. She also made me watch Happy Gilmore 2, which features Bad Bunny in a key role, just to help her prepare for it. And I think that's even worse, to be honest with you, because Happy Gilmore 2 is worse than Happy Gilmore, and Happy Gilmore is a very bad movie.
Well, that's a hot take.
I really want to see it though. I heard it was good and like fun in a goofy way.
It is that. It's goofy. But Riley seems to have taken umbrage at my attack.
I mean, I've never seen the original, so I can't comment, but I know people like that movie, so I bet you're going to get flamed in the Discord for that one.
By all the Sandler fans. By the way, Sandler apparently was last night in San Juan at the Bad Bunny concert. Although my wife did not show pictures of her with him. Anyway, I looked at your list of stories today and I was like, okay, good. Those seem like all the stories, but it does say something about the nature of our world that you provided us with a list of 5 stories that did not include President Trump saying he was moving 2 nuclear submarines with nuclear capability.
Oh yeah,
off the shores of Russia, because he wanted to make nuclear threats, and he thought World War III was a good way to respond. and I just think that doesn't make the cut. It says something about the kind of story.
I already forgot about that.
You did,
which is a shame.
Yeah, yes, a shame. That was 3 days ago, folks. But sure, it makes social media threats about nuclear submarines. Anyway, by the way, he keeps saying, well, we have a nuclear submarine here and a nuclear submarine there. The location of our nuclear submarines is among the most highly guarded secrets that we've got in this country. To say I put one off of Iran, or I've done this with Russia, admittedly, he's not giving out the exact information, but the idea that he's talking about it even is kind of shocking. Anyway, let's dive in and give these folks what is more important than World War III.
Well, we'll keep up with the Trump pressure campaign on Russia and now any Russian ally, as India is under growing pressure after President Trump threatened tariffs and penalties over its continued imports of Russian oil, a key part of India's energy strategy since the Ukraine war began. Despite Trump's warning, Indian officials remain non-committal, emphasizing that energy decisions are based on global market conditions and price. Russia has become India's top oil supplier, with 70% of Russian crude heading there in 2024, and Indian leaders argue their purchases helped stabilize global prices. While analysts say India may eventually explore alternatives, such as Iran and other OPEC members, for now it shows no signs of backing down amid shifting U.S. policy signals.
Yeah, this is craziness. Obviously, if the U.S. really cared about Russia and wanted to pressure Russia, they'd actually restore the level of arms shipments that took place during the Biden administration to Ukraine, to restore the level of aid to Ukraine, not impede the NATO alliance in the ways that they have, not require that any arms get trafficked through NATO in order to make it look like the funds for these things are not coming from the United States. All these things that Trump has done, including, by the way, buying into the Russian position that the lands they've already acquired they should keep, those would put pressure on Russia. Putting real sanctions on Russia would put pressure on Russia. The reason Trump is putting pressure on India is they didn't fully go along with his trade bullying, and B, they can without that much of an impact on the U.S. economy. China buys a lot of gas and oil from Russia, and Trump has threatened secondary sanctions on China. But trust me, it's not going to happen, because the last thing Trump wants to do is to get in a real dust up with the Chinese, because our economies are so interdependent with one another. So this is classic bully picking on the target that they feel that they can push around to make themselves feel strong, but that is actually inconsistent with all their other behavior.
President Trump's firing of Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner Erica McIntyre has sparked criticism and concern about the integrity of U.S. economic data, especially after Trump accused her, without evidence, of manipulating job numbers following large downward revisions. White House advisors defended the move, citing the need for new leadership, while economists and former officials warned it could undermine public trust in vital economic indicators. The controversy comes amid global market turmoil driven by new tariffs and leadership uncertainty at the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is classic Trump, out of the classic Trump playbook, like shoot the messenger, get rid of the people who provide you with bad news in order to put people in. And this is the part of the story that, has not been emphasized so far, who will do exactly what he wants, which in this particular case would be to lie about the data. I'm sure in Trump's mind, if adjustments can be made in trade data, then those adjustments can go both ways, and that he or labor data. And so what can happen is he'll put somebody in, and that person will say, well, here's where the unemployment rate is, and he'll say, I don't like it, and they'll say, okay, we'll adjust it, because we could always fix it again later with an announcement that we had it wrong, or if they do that. I think going forward, the world is going to stop relying on U.S. economic data, because they are going to believe that the United States is cooking the books. Wow, what a surprise. Trump has been, convicted in a court of law for cooking the books. Trump's last CFO's spending time in the slammer for cooking the books. This is what Trump does. These are how all these bankruptcies happen. These are how all his accusations of fraud happened. And so, I think this is where we are. It's completely outrageous. It is part of the war on truth. This woman is a civil servant. Trump's last head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics has defended her and said that this was an outrageous act. Everybody should be outraged, because losing the trust that the United States government has in the global economy is not just like, a PR blow. It actually has an economic consequence. Countries will be less inclined to get, to believe us, to trade with us. Our economic pronouncements about the value of our debt and other things will not be believed. Full faith and credit of the U.S. government used to mean something. It's meaning less and less under this president, who is known primarily as a liar and a fraudster. Riley.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has threatened to remove Democratic lawmakers from office after over 50 of them fled the state to block a vote on new congressional maps that would add 5 GOP-leaning seats, a move backed by Donald Trump ahead of the 2026 midterms. The Democrats' walkout, which denies the House a quorum, has delayed not only redistricting but also votes on critical flood relief measures. Abbott, citing a non-binding legal opinion and Republican-passed rules allowing daily fines, warned of aggressive consequences, while Attorney General Ken Paxton called for the absent lawmakers to be arrested. Democratic governors like Illinois' J.B. Pritzker have offered sanctuary and support, framing the Texas effort as part of a broader Republican attempt to tilt national elections.
Yeah, talk about bearing the lead. Let's remember here, the state of Texas is trying to cook its books electorally, trying to change the way districts are drawn, so that they can pick up 5 more Republican seats in the House to try and offset the potential gains being made by Democrats, or that seems likely to be made by Democrats in next year's election. This is right out of the authoritarian playbook. This is how you make democracy less democratic. That's the problem here. There are other problems in the story. I don't know if Abbott has the power to remove these people. If he does have the power to remove them, it still, gets him in, I think, the problem that he's got, which is you need a certain number of people to be a quorum in order for the votes to actually count. I think these Democrats realized they'd be threatened with arrest, or at least that the sergeant of arms of the Texas legislature would send somebody out to try to do that. And they realize that they've got to stand up and do something to fight this. Democrats who want to preserve democracy in America, who see this kind of illegal activity on the part of the Texas government, need to respond in every way they can, obstruct them, including what the Texas legislature is doing, and redistrict blue states to counteract this so that the Republicans understand that two can play at this game. It's not the way democracy should be run, but it is the way it must be run if it is to survive, given the threats against democracy by people like Abbott and Trump, who called for this action. So let's make sure that we do understand that what the Texas legislature is doing is what they have been instructed to do by the White House.
Despite Israel's announcement of tactical pauses to allow more humanitarian aid into Gaza, aid organizations report the amount delivered remains far below what's needed to prevent mass starvation. While over 1 million meals have been distributed and 1,200 aid trucks entered Gaza last week, the average aid per person is still less than 1 meal per day, and deadly conditions near distribution points, largely blamed on Israeli forces, have further worsened the crisis. The UN and humanitarian groups warn Gaza is now facing a, quote, worst case scenario of famine, calling the hunger crisis a human-made disaster driven by Israeli restrictions and ongoing violence.
Yeah, let's be clear. Human-made, as we said in our conversation with Jeremy Konyndyk last week, there are specific humans who can be cited who are responsible for this. Bibi Netanyahu's coalition, the commanders in the military who are ordering them to block the aid and to shoot at these innocent people who are trying merely to get fed. These are the people who are responsible. It is not like man-made, global warming or something like that, where, everybody has some responsibility. It's a small group of people who have made a deliberate choice to starve the people of Gaza to death, to destroy Gaza, to kill 100,000 of them, all to advance their own political motives, some of which are just simply to keep Prime Minister Netanyahu out of trouble with the law. It is one of the most hideous acts that we've seen in our life, slow motion torture of 2 million people. And the United States is defending it. And I think we need to be very clear about that. The Trump administration, like the Biden administration, have both taken a stance to defend the Israelis for what is completely indefensible. People warned, as we have here at the DSR network, for a long, long time that this is what was happening, that the famine would come. And this is, unfolded exactly as those warnings went, with giant tolls, giant suffering, and now a humanitarian crisis of the first order. One can only hope that the pressure of the world will produce change here. And there are rumblings that, some kind of a deal may be struck, because I think the Israelis and Trump both realize just how hideous this looks. Of course, their motives won't be to do the right thing. It'll be do the thing that, serves them politically. But look, let's deal with the starving children first, okay? And then we can do the political assessment. I hope that it does in fact produce a deal, and that Gaza can be opened up to the food and medical aid that they need right now.
Representative Nancy Mace has announced her candidacy for the 2026 South Carolina governor's race, joining a crowded Republican field that includes several prominent state figures. Once a moderate, Mace has since embraced a hardline MAGA identity, calling herself a super MAGA governor and aligning closely with Donald Trump despite past tensions. Her candidacy reflects both the enduring influence of Trump in South Carolina politics and questions about the future direction of the Republican Party. While Mace currently has a slight edge in early polling, the primary is expected to be highly competitive with no clear frontrunner yet.
Well, let me offer you my briefest analysis that I've ever provided to a story here, and that is yuck. I mean, Nancy Mace is just yuck. She is a shapeshifter. She has drifted or actually run to the right to become super MAGA, and also, by the way, you know, a desperate seeker of the media limelight. She is among the least of the politicians in the United States, and that's saying something when you consider the amazingly low caliber of U.S. politicians, particularly those on the right. By the way, at my Need to Know Substack, I do have a new post up about the need for change also in the Democratic Party, and you may want to take a look at that if you have a chance. Need to Know Substack is part of all of the work that we do here. That's stuff that's written exclusively by me. I would encourage you to go there and become a supporter of that and become a supporter of what we're doing here at the DSR Network. Click on membership, less than the price of a latte a month. You support what we're doing. We really need the support. There's a lot going on. We're about to head into the fall. It is going to be hugely eventful, and we're almost 1 year away from one of the most important elections in U.S. history. And I know you've heard that phrase a lot in your life. This one obviously doesn't need a lot of, background in order to come to that conclusion. If Democrats don't win and don't find some leverage in order to slow Trump down over the next couple of years, the destruction will be something that it will take decades to recover from, if it is even possible. We've got our regular schedule of stuff coming up to you this week, and we hope you will join us for all of that here at the DSR Network. By the way, a little tip: every year for the past 10 years that since we started doing podcasts, we take the last week of August off and we run some of our greatest hits. In the last week of August, we'll do that again here. Anyway, we hope you enjoy this first full week of August, and we'll be back with you again tomorrow. Until then, thanks. Thanks, Minna. Thanks, Riley. Bye-bye.